my desk is literally full of Army Painter products, and it takes me from being an average painter to putting above tabletop standard models out into the tournament scene. Not only that, but the Army Painter has sponsored more competitive play than any other hobby company in the industry. They allow us to keep doing the things that we do. If you enjoy the Army Painter as much as I do, head over to thearmypainter.com where you can use the discount code ARTOFWAR5 to get a discount on your next order. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Art of War. We have a super exciting tier list here today as we are going to be discussing the top 10 detachments in the game. The game has changed recently with the March balanced data slate. There's new detachments in the game, some of which are incredibly powerful, which you might see on this list. So Jack and I are going to be breaking that down for you. So if you're joining us, please do give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and tell your friends about us. All of that massively helps us grow. In addition, leave a comment below letting us know what you think is the best detachment in the game or the best ones, and we'd love to hear from you. In addition, if you want more content from us, like seeing some of these best detachments in the game going head-to-head against each other, well, guess what? You can check out The Worm at theworm.vhx.tv. There's a 3-day free trial. In addition to that, you're going to get access to some awesome content for every single army in the game, and access to our international Discord community where there's a TTS League ongoing. There'll be ideally more in the future, and tons of other stuff that you can enjoy. Now, before we head in here, there's some other exciting news, which is that this week, the Streamhouse RTT is going to begin on this very channel and in the War Room. So if you want to catch all the games, make sure you sign up for the War Room, as some will be on YouTube, as some will be in the War Room. And there's a lot of exciting things. We got 10 different Art of War coaches to come down to our lovely place and play some games. So it's going to be high quality competitive games in the new meta, and it's a very exciting time. We're going to do a preview show on Wednesday morning, kind of going through it. There's already been a preview kind of teaser video that released last week. So if you haven't checked that one, check that one out. It'll show the different armies that are being played and the people who will be here. But we're going to do a little bit of a preview show. And then on Wednesday afternoon is going to be a release of the very first game on this channel. So stay tuned for that.
Absolutely. And round one's got some exciting matchups. On camera for round one, we've got Sasha Edelkraut versus Nick. All right, going
CSM
head-to-head.
versus Aldari.
That's right. And then we've also got Quentin Johnson versus Kyle McCord on camera.
Sisters versus Dark Angels. Yes, the sisters are back. Bless you, Jack.
Thank you. Quentin's ready to put his money where his mouth is. He thinks sisters are back, and he's willing to prove it.
Heck yeah. So, tons of exciting stuff on the channel. Definitely try and click that like and subscribe button and get notified when these things happen. All right, now in terms of ranking the best detachments, this is obviously our criteria for doing so, but we didn't want to simply say, okay, here's the 10 best armies in the game. We're going to pick a detachment from them and let that stand for it. So we're trying to vary it up a little bit from the tier list because we want to focus more on the tools and the power level of the things in the detachment itself, not so much the units that might be benefiting from them or like the points cost of units that might be benefiting from them. We really want to look at each detachment and understand how valuable are these rules in Warhammer in general, and then this collection of rules, how strong is it compared to other options out there?
Yes. Yeah, for sure. It's a lot more about the strength of the detachment in context, right? If everyone got access to that context, to that detachment, how good would it be? It's just a cool little thought experiment.
Yeah, so we've picked ones that have rules where you look at it, especially if you have less detachment models, maybe you're an index army right now, you would love to have access to some of these.
Yes, for sure.
Okay, so heading on to the honorable mentions to start, we're going to start off here with the Final Day. It's a Genestealer Cult detachment, and this is their Grotmus detachment, so very new. It has done pretty well. Nick did very well with it at the Las Vegas Open. Other players have brought it to quite good success as well. So what does it actually do? Well, first of all, it allows you to grab 1,000 points of Tyranids in your Genestealer Cult army. Now, it's not every Tyranid. You can't just go grab Exocrines or Trinifexes or stuff like that, but it is going to be most of their Vanguard units, which is a lot of their Lone Ops and their Tricky units.
Yeah, that is by far the best part of the detachment, is getting access to a second codex. Most people only get access to one. This gets access to two, which is very good.
You might say some of the, like if we did a list of the top 10 loan ops in the game, there would be several Tyranid ones on there. And these are some of the ones you're getting access to.
And what you get when you get access to two codexes is you get a very refined list, right? You don't have to go searching for the GSC loan ops that die if a stiff breeze comes their way, right? You get some of the best loan ops in the game. You also get access to gargoyles, which is something that GSC just do not have, right? They don't have a unit that goes 19 to 24 inches and is OC2, can move block the world and takes every objective. They don't have access to that, but now they do, and it's a fundamentally different play style. You kind of saw this back in 9th when you could ally like 3 books together into one list. You got very efficient lists because you got best-in-class units for whatever role you were looking for. If you were looking to do a bunch of damage, you would get best-in-class units at doing damage. Same sort of thing here. You get best-in-class loan ops, you get best-in-class objective takers, and then you can back it up with some pretty darn good combat and some pretty darn good shooting, given that this then buffs the GSC half, giving the GSC half +1 to hit, reroll wounds in combat, go back into reserves, that sort of thing.
Yeah, fallback, shoot, and charge. Yep. Like the suite of stratagems that you get here is very good. If a Tyranids character dies, your GSC stuff is going to get +1 to hit, +1 to wound against it the rest of the game. There's some nasty things going on in this detachment, and the collective of being able to access a new suite of really good data sheets, being able to keep resurgence points for GSC, which is massive. You still get to bring back, your 10 resurgence points worth of units. So you still have layers and layers of stuff like GSC wants. And then enhancing the damage output of different combat units like the Patriarch Pure Strain units or Aberrants, or you also have Ridge Runners that benefit a lot from this detachment. It's a really good collection of rules, and it results in a very well-rounded type of GSC army.
Yes. We will, by the way, get to all the super chats at the end of the stream. Don't worry, we'll get to every single one. We're just going to go through our list now, and then we'll address them.
Absolutely. So heading on to our next honorable mention. So not yet in the top 10, but these are very good detachments. This is going to be the Leagues of Votann Oathband detachment, which is their index detachment, not the Grotmus one. And the reason that this one is super powerful is, first of all, you get a collection of very, very good stratagems. You have access to 1 CP fallback, shoot, and charge. You have access to, if your opponent has a judgment token on it in the shooting phase, you can get sustain 2, which with a volume of fire unit, you can put out heinous amounts of damage on them. You get access to additional AP for each judgment token on the enemy unit in combat, which means Berserks can just be at AP 4, just murdering something that doesn't have an invuln. It's a collection of very, very good stratagems, and there's multiple ways to manipulate tokens and the buffs that they give, which is very good. In addition, you have the detachment rule here, which is Ruthless Efficiency. Now, it is slightly changed, and this is probably one of the reasons this detachment isn't making it in the top 10, is that it used to be you pick 4 enemy units at the start of the game, and those units start with 2 judgment tokens, which is +1 to hit, +1 to wound. That's a great rule. That's like one of the best detachments, period, obviously. However, Games Workshop has split off 2 of those sets of judgment tokens to the army rule now to help the Grotmus detachment. So you still, if you play Oathband, you're still going to get 4, but 2 are from the army rule and only 2 are going to be from Ruthless Efficiency, which means it's not quite as potent as it was previously. Your enhancement suite is also very good. You have a way to get additional judgment tokens on enemy units on objectives, and you have access to like ignore mods on a character in his unit. You also have access to stand back up on a 2-up and come back at full health. There's a bunch of really nice abilities here, but really the detachment rule itself and the flexibility of the stratagems is why this detachment is pretty highly ranked. And you're seeing it. Germany, Votann is one of the dominant factions in their meta. Votann performs fairly well in other metas. This detachment is the reason why. It is very good, and the enhanced detachment rule, giving out those additional judgment tokens, is a crucial part of that. Jack, if I just told you, like, your detachment is going to let you pick any of the enemy units out there, and you're going to get +1 to hit, +1 to wound against them, you'd be like, heck yeah, I'm taking that. Taking that bad boy.
But not just that. If I kill any of those, then I get a bunch of extra CP.
Yep.
There's fallback, shoot, and charge. There's sustained hits 2. There's +2 AP in combat. There's others that I'm
shoot back at you.
Like it's
Void
just
armor.
a really good strat. Yeah, void armor. That's 5. I'm sure there's one that's useless. There's always one that's useless.
That one is the last stratagem is if you get below half strength, you can put additional judgment tokens on the enemy. So
okay, I've never seen you use that.
I've never used that one, but it could come up. If it's your warlord unit, they get additional one.
But there is always one that's bad. Yeah, but this, very good detachment. It's very solid, right? It's not flashy. It doesn't do anything too crazy. But like a lot of these, it probably would if it were on different units.
Exactly, 100%.
If it weren't on Votann, maybe if Eldar got access to this.
Don't want it. All right, and then moving on to our last honorable mention here. Yes, we did 3 of them. There's a lot of really good detachments in the game. This is one of Jack's favorites here.
This is one of my favorites. When we were talking about best detachments, this one came right to mind for me. It's the platonic ideal of a melee detachment. It and Warhorde basically are the solid bones of what a melee army needs in order to function, right? You have a damage buff, right? On the charge, which can be on the heroic too. You just don't get fight first. On the charge, you get +1 strength, +1 attack. Great buff. And it's one that world leaders kind of need in their profiles, which is a little weird. It's weird how much I bake that into their profiles. Let me put it that way. And then, so +1 strength, +1 attack. You have good enhancements. You have a half damage enhancement. You have a +1 attack, +1 damage enhancement, which is pretty solid. The other ones are okay. Rerolling the blood tithe chart, whatever, it's fine. But the stratagems are just so essential for what a melee army looks to do. We've got flat advance 6 on an army that can advance and charge. Awesome. Just great for reliability there.
So good.
We have +1 to wound versus character monster vehicle. Insane damage buff.
Are those types of units in the game, Jack?
They are always the ones you want to kill. There are occasionally ones that don't have a character monster vehicle, like Deathwing Knights or something, but whatever. Most of the time, it's got a character, so it must die, or it's a monster vehicle, so it must die. Roll in the blood tithe chart when you kill something is a great buff. It's a great Swiss Army knife. You kill something, go fish for Angron. You kill something, you pull up Feel No Pain for your army, like if it's the first engage, right? There's a lot of ways you can use it. A huge one is sticky objectives when you die on them. Without that strat, the army would be like significantly worse because that's how you pull people towards you. You go onto an objective, and if they just shoot you to death, you sticky the objective and you're winning, right? You control more objectives than them. But if they come forward, that gives you charges, that gives you momentum, that gives you things to kill. The army loves that. And then -1 damage in combat is how I beat up on other melee armies, right? If you're going to interrupt, -1 damage. You know, if you're going to fight first, -1 damage, and then combined with high toughness, feel no pain, and whatnot, that blunts a lot of things. But -1 damage gets around the fight first, gets around interrupts, gets around being tagged right in the wrong place and then being forced to fight the wrong thing. It's just such a good detachment roll. There's one strat, it's terrible. I've never used it, never wanted to use it. It's about battle shocking people, whatever. But the rest of the detachment is great.
Honestly, you don't want 6 amazing stratagems because you're never going to spend all that. You're never going to have the CP, unless you're Ultramarines, then you would. But
no, this is 4 really, 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 really good utility 1 CP strats or damage output. And then the 2 CP -1 damage is just, if I have a problem, I -1 damage it, and then I hit it in combat. That's really how it works.
Heck yeah. All right. So Berserker Warglaive from, or Warband from the World Eaters. Excellent melee detachment.
Yes.
And it's basically the dominant way to play the faction. I know a lot of people experimented with the Grotmus detachment, but this one still stands as just so good.
It's my pick for the best. There are people whose opinion I respect giving Vessels of Wrath the time of day. It's not for me. I didn't like it. I am tried and true Berserker Warband gamer out here.
Heck yeah. All right, let's move into the top 10. Starting off with number 10, which is going to be the Hammer of the Emperor Astra Militarum detachment. So this is the new Guard Codex. They got a bunch of new detachments. Hammer of the Emperor is one of the ones that John has favored in his games with the Astra Militarum, and I believe it is undefeated in games on our channel.
It's very good.
It is extremely good.
It is very good.
So let's get into why this is so good. So you look at the detachment rule here. That's Iron Tread. That's going to be each squadron unit. So this is a lot of their different vehicles. from your army. When it advances, you don't roll for it. You just flat 6 advance. You add that to your movement characteristic, and you can move within engage range of enemy models, but cannot end with engage range. But it doesn't say that you can go over enemy models. There's a different way to be able to potentially do stuff.
Yep.
But
don't read a detachment rule or any rule to do a thing that it doesn't say that it does.
Yeah.
It does not let you move over models. It just lets you move within engage range, which can help quite a bit, actually.
Yep, if you're kind of finagling around different areas. But ultimately, the real synergy here is that there is going to be an advance and shoot stratagem in this detachment, which all of a sudden opens up a Rogel Dorn flying whatever, like 19 inches across the table. There's also a stratagem to go through walls, both in the shooting and the movement and the charge phase, which also is pretty nutty when combined with this rule. There is the Taurox, which is the transport which allows you to advance and disembark. And this is one of the favored tools of Guard playing this detachment, which is you just put some mortal wounds, spam bodies inside a transport that's ludicrously cheap, and you just yeet it across the table. And you get out there, you do some mortals, you drop a bunch of bodies in their face onto objectives, and they're having a bad time.
Yeah, I mean, this would be pretty darn good in a lot of armies. I think it is at its best with Rogel Dorns, but like, can you imagine this with a Land Raider, right? A Land Raider Redeemer. Could you imagine this with, like, I don't know, the Volgons, right? Going 17 inches through walls and popping out the other side being...
It's it's very rare to have all 3 ones, where you have flat 6 advance access, you have advance and shoot access, and you have go through walls in either the movement or the charge phase. When you have all 3 combined, that is an incredibly potent synergy. You also have +1 AP for a tank if you get within 12 inches of a target.
Very strong.
If your opponent is doing anything aggressive, you're going to easily be able to get in range of that. In addition, you have some really good enhancements. You have 6 of Feel No Pain for a Rogel Dorn Tank Commander, and you have reroll 1s to hit for Rogel Dorn Tank Commander. And there's a lot of guns on there, a lot of shots.
Let me, I think a good way to determine if a detachment is good is if it's telling you to do something that the army does not want to do natively, which I think is great design, and then they do that thing. So Guard do not want to be yeeting their tanks downfield and busting through walls and charging your opponent with tanks, basically, right? They want to sit back, control the game. Here's my Rogel Dorns, and then they push like infantry and onward. They don't want to be pushing their tank to within like 2 inches of your unit. But they are doing that because this detachment is good enough that it encourages that play style, and they're going to do it. So that means the detachment's strong, right? It's telling you to do something you don't want to do, and it's good enough that I'm going to do it. We'll see that later on with some of the other detachments.
There's 2 other stratagems I didn't mention here, which is that you have access to -1 damage for 2 CP, and you have access to fall back and shoot, which is something that is very rare for Guard. Right. So even though there's only one way to advance and shoot here, for the most part, there's not many assault weapons in Guard. It is mostly through the stratagem. So it's not like you're advancing your whole army up and just like murdering somebody, but it is playing that trading game and getting them to overcommit and being flexible enough to do whatever you want, which is incredibly potent. 5 of their 6 stratagems are really, really good. And luckily Guard have ways to manipulate that if they need to. So I think this detachment's really strong. This is John's favorite one. It's competing with one other detachment for the best performing Guard detachment that I've seen. Now that Bridgehead has been nerfed. Bridgehead previously, spoiler alert, it's not going to be on here. It did take a severe beating, but previously that one was kind of, it was not necessarily papering up, but it was effectively obscuring the other Guard detachments that were good, but not seeing as much play because they weren't the obvious choice like Bridgehead. Yeah. Bridgehead getting nerfed has opened up a lot more dimension to the Guard Codex.
Bridgehead, showed the folly of man's arrogance, flew too close to the sun and got its wings like blasted off with a Gatling cannon.
Never again. All right, moving on to number 9. It is a detachment that has performed well with many different archetypes this edition. It is the Stormlance Task Force, and their rule is the ability to advance in charge and fall back in charge when you would like.
Yes, so mobility wins games, movement wins games. Space Marine units don't get like the biggest benefit from this, like straight up, like Space Wolves, sure, it's a whole thing, right? You can take a Space Wolf mounted army that is the Stormlance with, 20 Thunder Cav, and it's pretty darn good, right? It's really, really like to the point. It does its thing. It runs at you with Thundercav. And you can do that. And that's a datasheet type that benefits from this rule quite a bit. But like generically, Marines don't, right? They have a bunch of vehicles that move 10 or 8. They have a bunch of infantry that isn't like the best in combat, right? Jump pack intercessors are good skirmish. They're not cracking your opponent like an egg. Same thing with like Blade Guard. They're okay. They're not insane. And the fact that John's been playing it and just using the movement part of it in order to try and do well with it, that's enough, right? You just need movement to win games. Everything else takes care of itself. So the fact that you can advance, there's a strat to advance and shoot, and then you can advance and charge or fall back and charge natively is really good. And then you have the flat 6 flat 6 reactive move. A flat 6 reactive move, by the way, is an incredible stratagem. It's one of the best.
Incredible. It was nerfed slightly in the update where I believe you cannot use it on the fly units anymore, or you can only use it on infantry mounted, I guess. Because you used to be able to use it on the Lion, and it was seen heavily in a Dark Angels archetype with that, and you could use it on the Storm Raven previously. I believe those have gone away.
And even so, it's still quite good.
It's still good. Like, flat 6 reactive is fantastic. You see with the Space Marine Lone Op Lieutenant, like that guy's just doing it for free. Why don't I just have another unit also doing it?
Yeah, and it turns out, just like Emperor's Children don't have the best data sheets in the game. But army-wide, advance and charge, fall back and charge, advance and shoot, fall back and shoot is good enough to prop that up. And this is kind of the same way. You know, Space Marines don't have the best data sheets to take advantage of this, but advance and charge army-wide, fall back and charge army-wide is bananas. And if other armies got access to this, I promise you it would be a problem. Like, this detachment would ragdoll people if you got access to data sheets that really, really, really wanted to use it.
Yeah, the thing is, like, we've seen it in multiple archetypes. Originally, Stormlands with the Space Wolf Thunderwolf Cav, as you mentioned, was the primary way to play it. Then in the kind of middle era, you know, several months ago, there was a Dark Angels build, trying to reactive the Lion, and then having Deathwing Knights being able to advance and charge into you and just beat you to death, Inner Circle Companions. And then there, more recently, is John's Ultramarines Stormlands, which is less combat heavy, much more shooting heavy, relying on the reactive move to keep cheap units alive, and then using -1 to hit, -1 to wound on the fly units, like a Storm Raven or on some of those Storm Speeders. So there's a good amount of flexibility in here, but it's the mobility, as you said. Mobility wins games, and this detachment's one of the most mobile.
Yes. It just gives that mobility, right? Like,
yeah, you don't have to think about it.
You don't have to think about it. Here you go.
I don't need to set this up. I just have it all the time. Very strong. All right, moving on to number 8. We have the Warhorde Orcs.
Yeah, so Warhorde Orcs is, again, like Berserker Warband, just an incredible melee detachment. It skews a little bit more towards what orcs do well, which is it's easier to get in. You have trucks, you have chaff, you have cheap stuff. So it's easier to get in. They don't need sticky objectives on death, although they would appreciate it. Sustained hits 1 in combat all the time. It's essentially like Berserker Warband. You just get a damage buff as part of your detachment rule. Your enhancements are okay, but the stratagems are very, very good.
Yeah, they are.
1 CP crit 5.
Is that the best crit 5 strat in the game?
Possibly, because
orcs have the most like things like lethal or sustained.
It's pretty up there because it's pretty easy to get to lethal on the unit. You basically need to either have Gaz or roll a 6 on a kill rig, which if you're taking kill rigs, you're taking 3, which means you have a 50% chance of getting it. It's pretty strong, and then sustained hits 1 is with crit 5s is incredible, especially when a lot of those units will have +1 to hit, so they'll hit on 2s. Right, like if you go in there with a beast boss, you're hitting on 2s, full rerolls, sustained 5s, and you go from like 7 attacks to like 12 hits, 11 hits or something, because you reroll everything that isn't a 5+. Very, very good detach rule, very good strat on damage. It's basically the same as Berserker Warband, right? They have a detachment that buffs your damage, and they have a strat that buffs your damage. Then we've got -1 to wound, just 1 CP, just anything that's non-vehicle. Very, very good there. We have... Gosh, I'm getting confused up with Berserker Warband. You just have a great suite.
Still thinking about the Berserker.
Of course, you know what I'm thinking of. But yes, you just have some incredible stratagems in there. You have -1 to wound. You have +2 advance, +2 charge. You have Fight on Death. You have Kareen. So Kareen really benefits a melee army that's in transports, because as soon as you explode, your opponent just rolls their eyes and goes, oh my God. As opposed to you going, oh no, I'm going to damage some of my units. Like, no, my transport is over there now. My unit's getting out behind line of sight blocking terrain. Your plan is falling apart. I'm going to take your expansion objective. It's perfect. And then Fight on Death is, again, a really, really good way to level the playing field against other melee armies. Because you can charge a Fight First unit and World Leaders would -1 damage and tank it and kill them. Or Orcs will just say, yeah, you got me, Chief. You killed me. It's okay. Fight on Death and just pick up the enemy unit as well. And when people are ready for their Fight First unit to be goalkeeping their side of the board, right? Oh, you're a melee army. You can't beat me. I have a Fight First unit on my side of the board blocking you. If the first activation is them Fight Firsting and then you Fight on Death and lift their Fight First unit, the game is over, right? If they thought that was going to keep them safe and it gets lifted as the first activation, oops, sorry, you're getting killed today. It's just a great melee detachment. And I love my melee detachments. And this and Berserker Warband are the two best.
Yeah, and that's why they made the list. Moving on to number 7 here is going to be a different guard detachment, and that's going to be Born Soldiers. And this is not Born Soldiers, it's Combined Arms. It used to be called Combined Regiment when it was the Index detachment. It has changed a decent amount, but what do you get in this detachment compared to some of the others? Well, first of all, you get lethal hits access on different units against different targets. So your infantry, your regiment type of stuff is going to get lethal hits against non-monster vehicles. And then your squadron units, which is a lot of your key vehicles, are getting it against monsters and vehicles. And having lethal hits army-wide for your key damage dealers into your opponent's likely key damage dealers is incredibly potent. We saw, the Index Guard was one of the strongest armies in the game. It still is an incredibly strong detachment. Nassim finished, I think, second at the Goonhammer Open, or top couple at the Goonhammer Open with this detachment recently. And once again, because Bridgehead was nerfed, it opens up the other guard detachments, which are good, to finally get the limelight and show off their prowess. And this detachment, I think, is easier to play than Hammer of the Emperor. And it's one of the ones where, if we look at the stratagem and enhancement suite, it's extremely easy to get basically everything that you could want to have orders. And instead of going so heavy on Rogel Dorn tank commanders, you don't have to in this detachment, because you can bring Lehman Russes and just have more guns to benefit from the lethals and to benefit from the variety of stratagems that you have here, specifically the ability to give out a lot of different orders to anything. You don't have to take Leontis anymore. Your order economy is extremely easy in this detachment. In addition, Fields of Fire is a little bit worse in that you can't pick a target, get +1 AP against it for everything, but it's only 1 CP now, and you can still do your normal Hellhound thing or shoot the Lehman Russ that gives additional AP first, and then you shoot other ones. You can still do that style.
It's also only 1 CP, so it is easier.
Exactly. And once again, that puts less pressure on having to run Leontis, where you were trying to really spam some more expensive stratagems. Then you also have access to 2 CP reinforcement stratagem to just bring back an infantry unit. It's quite popular to run the Max Krieg squad and just have that healing back and being annoying. This is a great stratagem to use on it to bring it back.
Once your opponent does manage to kill it, it's back.
It's back. Oh, how many more resources do you want to commit to kill the second version of it? It's like, I don't really want to do that. So this detachment is really more heavily leaning on its detachment role, I would say, and its order economy, more so than the power of any single stratagem.
Yeah. Would you like to do more damage in shooting?
Consistently.
Yes. This no hoops to jump through, right? It's not mechanized regiment. You have to be deployed on the board this turn or whatever. You don't have to come down from reserves like Bridgehead. Do you want more damage? There you go. You get lethal hits. There you go. Cross the board on everything against your preferred target. Tanks shoot tanks, lethals. Infantry shoot infantry, lethals.
And you can't underestimate the power of lethal hits. There's a lot of really tough, durable, annoying things in the game. Right now there's going to be like T13 grade unclean ones hanging around, one with the Phenopain and Demonic Incursion. If you have an abundance of lethals, those types of targets will just evaporate over time. It is a huge difference going into durable threat overload armies like Imperial Knights, Chaos Knights, all over the meta. You know what's amazing into them? Just having lethals on the 18 shots I'm going to shoot from these Lehman Russes each turn.
Yes. That's actually huge. It's huge on the
it's massive.
multi-meltas. Strength 9 means you're wounding a lot of tanks on 5s, but if you have lethals into the wound rolls, then it's a lot more reliable. And you'll punch a couple wounds through, bring down an enemy tank you might not have otherwise.
Absolutely. So a really good detachment here that I expect to see significantly more of. And then moving on to number 6, it is an absolute classic. It is the Gladius Task Force, widely regarded as perhaps the best Space Marine detachment, and it's basically good for any archetype.
Yeah, it just gives you a great suite of rules to play the game no matter what you're trying to do. Would you like to advance and shoot? You can. Would you like to advance and charge? You can. Would you like to fall back, shoot, and charge? You can. It legitimately would probably be several spots higher on the list if Fire Discipline were not gutted, right? It used to give sustained hits to their unit, and then during Assault Doctrine, you got crit 5s.
Or Dev Doctrine, right?
Sorry, during Dev Doctrine. Yeah. I always mix them up because it gives your weapons assault, but whatever. During Dev Doctrine, you would get sustained 5s. And that was crazy. You could put on almost anything. I did a Gladius group coaching thing, and one slide was just, where is Fire Discipline going? Like, what unit is Fire Discipline going on? Because the question isn't, do I take it? It was, what is it going on? And then they nerfed it. They removed the crit 5s, and they replaced it with you get
reroll
advances in.
So they finally made it cheaper, though.
They did finally make it not 40 points. But this would be several slots higher if you could just have the Fire Discipline Eradicator, you have Fire Discipline Aggressor unit, like even a Fire Discipline Hellblaster unit, but whatever. The rest of the detachment is amazing. Artificer Armor is a great enhancement. The melee one, I can never remember names. The melee one is very, very good, which is +1
Honor Vehement.
Honor Vehement, yeah. +1 strength, +1 attack, and then during Assault Doctrine, +2 to each of those. You can get really, really nasty. The stratagem suite's great. You have Ignores Cover, +1. Like, there's not a lot of strats that just give out AP, and you have 2 of them.
Yeah.
Right? They're pretty rare, but you can just give out 2 of them. Lance and +1 AP. It's Lance normally +1 AP in Assault Doctrine. Great damage strat, my word. Like, you can make some things absolutely crack with that. Same thing with Ignores Cover and +1 AP. As you can see, I don't remember names. That one also makes units into an absolute monster. You have full Fight on Death, which is going away version. Kind of, right? Like, Fight on Death is kind of very rare, right? Like, you have 2 CP Fight on Death here, and you have 2 CP full Fight on Death in Orcs, both of which are very, very, very good strats. You have a reactive move that's either D6 or flat 6. Like, it's just a selection of some of the best rules ever. And if you don't want to burn a combat doctrine, you can always just spend it, or you already have burned it, or you're in a different one. You can spend a CP and put a unit in a combat doctrine. So you have 1 CP, advance and charge, or advance and shoot, or fall back, shoot, and charge, which is an incredible stratagem. Just a great suite of rules. And if you're playing Marines, you cannot possibly go wrong by taking the Gladius.
Yep.
You just can't.
It's great for an all-comers list. It doesn't want you to just be pure shooting or mostly combat. That's what like a Storm Lance or an Iron Storm or something will do better. But this is, if you want to have tools all over the place, this is the toolkit that you want.
Yeah, it gives you buffs to your shooting, gives you buffs to your melee, gives you buffs to your mobility, it gives you buffs to... It's not, as you said, hyper-focused on one thing, but it gives you buffs everywhere. So I really like it. And if every army got access to it, it's in Space Marines, it's kind of just the fallback. It's kind of like, oh, this detachment isn't really working for me. Back to the Gladius, right? Like, and if it was just the generic detachment that anyone got access to, It would be that for everybody, right? Everybody would be like, well, this archetype isn't quite working. We're going back to the Gladius because it is tried and true and just very, very good.
And we've seen basically all the different archetypes of Space Marines at the different points of the meta gravitate towards Gladius builds. Just, you've seen Gladius for every type. You've seen Ultramarines Gladius, you've seen Dark Angels Gladius, Black Templar Gladius, so on and so forth.
I still think the Black Templar Gladius is actually pretty good. Unfortunately, I play like 17 armies at the moment. But if I were going to like a local event, I would definitely take the Black Templar Gladius.
Absolutely. Moving on to the top 5 now. At number 5, it is a brand new Garotmis detachment, Angelic Inheritors. This is the Blood Angels one.
Oh boy. Oh, I love this detachment.
It's got great rules.
All right. Forget what I just said about the Black Templar Gladius, whatever. This detachment is sick. I love this detachment. Oh my God. When it first came out, I, along with everyone else, was like, it's not that great. It's fine. It doesn't. The problem was we were comparing it to the Liberator Assault Group, and we weren't giving it its fair shake. Because you look at Liberators and you go, wow, my units are so good in Liberators. I couldn't possibly do without these buffs. There's just no way. If I don't have these buffs, my units are useless. Not true, actually. There are a lot of times where the Angelic Inheritors buff is just better. It's just better on the detachment rule on its face than Liberators. So the detachment rule is you get to pick 2 of 3 abilities for character units in your army to just have at all times. The number one and the one you take, well, you take 2 of them and you don't take the third. The third one you don't take is reroll advances and charges. It's a solid ability. You can duplicate it for a CP, but you need the other 2. You just gotta have the other 2. You have fallback, shoot, and charge with every character unit at all times, which is really good because otherwise you have 0 access to it and your army gets locked up all the time by everything. Whereas when you can fall back, shoot, and charge, your army is hypermobile. You just cannot be stopped. You just fall back and charge. It's great. Fall back, shoot, and charge. But the big one is reroll 1s to hit and reroll 1s to wound. When you have reroll 1s to hit and reroll 1s to wound up, a lot of the time that is as big or higher of a damage buff than Liberator Assault Group because you get reroll 1s to hit and wound when you are charging. You also get reroll 1s to hit and wound when you are being charged, which Liberator does not get its +1 attack, +2 strength. You get it while you're in extended combats, and you can grind away at your opponent, which Liberators does not get. So it is just an incredible damage buff because you get it in shooting and in combat, and you're rerolling constantly.
And you're not oath reliant.
It's huge. I was basically I played this detachment like a whole lot, right? I took this to LVO, I got 3rd with it. By like the 8th time in a turn, it feels like I'm full rerolling to hit and full rerolling to wound. People will ask you to stop. Like, come on, man. Like, how many rerolls do you have? It's like, I got more. I haven't actually shot my oath target yet. So you get oath to go on things that aren't characters, like Vindicators or whatnot. If anyone else got access to this, it would be really good for them too. The enhancements are pretty good. Scout is a solid rule. Troubling Visions is completely garbage. But whatever, there had to be a bad one. There's Ignore Overwatch, but my favorite is the Stand Back Up on a 2-up with 3 wounds remaining. You put that on any kind of a lone op, and it's really, really good. But you can, in this army, you can put on a lone op that reactive moves, and that is insane. Strats, you can get access to Lance and Lethal Hits, which is basically like Liberator Assault Group, except you don't have to battle shock yourself to get them. So you get Lance Lethal Hits. You can make any unit a character. You can put any fly unit back in, or any jump pack unit, I think, back into reserves, which is huge for the longevity of because the army doesn't advance and charge. It doesn't advance and shoot. And people always ask me, like, are you able to, like, you advance and charge? You do anything like that? I'm like, nah, I play honest Warhammer over here. I just move my movement characteristic and declare a charge. And that has not been a problem. Just not been a problem, because whenever it's an issue, you just go back into reserves and then rapid ingress the following turn, and you can pour pressure onto their expansion, whatever you need there. You can loan up any character unit 18 inches. I'm sure there's one I'm forgetting. It is just a very, very, very solid detachment. It gives you a great damage buff baked into the detachment rule. It gives you a mobility buff baked into the detachment rule. Good stratagems, good enhancements. I don't know why I thought this was bad at first, but it definitely isn't. It is also, just as the little cherry on top, super duper fun to play. If you are a Blood Angels player and you have not given Angelic Inheritors a shake, you are missing out. It is a blast. I don't play a ton of practice games in 40k outside of, work hours. I don't play a ton of practice games generally. I got like 20 practice games for LVO with this, not because I was tryharding, but because it was so much fun that when I had an opportunity for a game, I was like, hell yeah, I'm putting this on the table.
And this is the best detachment for the Sanguinar, who is a baller in here.
Yes, I mean, that's completely separate, right? Because that's a Blood Angels thing, not a detachment thing. But yes, if you have any kind of fight first lone op, anything like that, any kind of fight first unit, woof-da, you're going to be messing people up. But going Blood Angel specific, yes, the Sanguinor is the best unit in the game in this detachment. One of them.
All right, moving on to number 4, we have an index here, which is the returned Black Spear Task Force detachment for the Death Watch. And for a little period there, Death Watch didn't exist in their form. They were only in the Imperial Agents book. But now they're back as their own chapter, and they have a great detachment. There were some nice upgrades here. Now, their mission tactics only apply to their kill teams that have the mission tactics rule, so you can't just get these rules on any Space Marine unit. So that's one qualifier. However, the kill teams are amazing. So let's go through some of their rules. Well, their detachment rule gives you enormous flexibility in that you get to pick one of 3 different buffs in order to get something critical, some sort of critical buff, usually a damage buff.
It's sustained, lethal, or precision on 6s, I want to say?
Yes.
Or just precision?
I'm pretty sure it's precision on 6s, on critical hits. I'm pretty sure they all proc on critical hits. And this is overall quite good. So your whole turn, I'm going to go into the sustained turn. I really need to make sure that I do the damage here into these elite infantry bodies. Boom, sustained on my army. I'm going to go do the big damage. Or I'm going to go on the lethal turn. I really need to punch up into vehicle monsters this turn. Boom, lethals on my kill teams. Or if your opponent has a bunch of units with key characters, okay, I can only epic challenge in one place, and that's only on my character. What if my just units were pumping out enough damage to get through the characters first?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Sustained and lethal are definitely better than precision on crits, but when you need it, it's there. And the big advantage of this is it's a teleporting detachment.
It is. It has 6 very good stratagems. One of those is teleporting your kill teams. Incredibly potent. You get to teleport 2 of them. On top of that, you can pick from a variety of special issue war gear. One of them extends the range of your weapons by 6, and I believe gives ignores cover.
Yeah, there's like weird combinations. All I know is
there's an anti-infantry 2+1.
Yeah, their data sheets are just feel like your opponent is making up rules whenever they shoot them at you, and a lot of that's because of the strats just buffing random stats on their data sheets.
Absolutely. They also have great enhancements, so they have the ability to do a second Oath of Moment through the Tome of the Ectoclades. They also have the Thief of Secrets enhancement to make a captain, if he kills things, ludicrously hard-hitting, or a Watchmaster in this case.
Or captain, if you want a captain.
You could do a captain as well.
I've seen that.
That guy, once he kills something, if you don't stop him, he is going to rip through units by himself.
And he only needs to kill a model.
Yes.
A model.
Ludicrously easy.
How many secrets could that guardsman have had that it makes you that good?
The most critical secrets in the Imperium, Jack, are in some random model.
Like, he kills, like, a Kriegsman, or he kills a Kroot, and he's like, oh.
The entire secret of the Tau Empire here in my power.
Oh, I guess I'm damage 4 AP 4 now. How weird is that?
This man's a thief. Yeah, go ahead with the stratagems.
So they have anti-infantry 2+, anti-monster 5+, as long as they're not dev wound weapons. But what you get is like strength 4 guns that have a lot of shots. Just go, oops, I guess I'm going to do on 2s now. Kraken rounds, which is +1 AP plus 6-inch range.
Yep, that's
which is
the combo.
Hell of a buff. And then Dragonfire rounds are assault and ignores cover. So you can advance and shoot with essentially +1 AP off ignores cover. You can +6-inch range and actually +1 AP. Or you can just wound infantry on 2s no matter what. And you can use it on whatever. If you have flamers, you wound them on 2s. It does not matter. Armor of Contempt, you can put somebody into one of the doctrine things here. And then you have teleport. And it's a really good teleport because it's 1 CP, 2 kill teams. And kill teams are most of the army. So I would assume it would translate to being most of whatever army it's targeting, right? If this were in a different army.
Teleporting 2 key units a turn, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, you teleport 2 units, and then the entire rest of the detachment is, what if you had insane shooting buffs? Okay, yeah, no, yeah, I get it. You know, it plays one playstyle, and that playstyle is very good in 40k.
Teleporting guns.
Teleporting guns. Always a problem. Always the finals of LVO were between teleporting guns and teleporting guns. It's good.
This detachment also didn't receive any changes, even though it did win LVO and has performed in other big events. I believe the Terminator 5-man kill team went up 10 points, and that was the only thing it took. Wow. So this detachment is fantastic.
Wow.
And I think it's just the fact that a lot of people don't have the Deathwatch specific kill teams, all the unique models that you need for them, and that's why it's not as heavily played, but it is really good right now.
It does reward a very dedicated player who learns all of the ins and outs of the army, because there's a lot of combos, and if you learn them, you're going to get a lot of value out of them. If you are the kind of person who likes really weird, janky infantry armies, and that if that applies to you, you know that it does. You definitely need to give this army a shot, because it shoots crazy hard. It has a lot of really weird combos and bespoke units, and it's very good.
Moving on to the top 3. Coming in at number 3 is the Lions of the Emperor, a brand new March 2025 detachment that we did not expect to see.
No. Very happy with this detachment. So remember how I said in Hammer of the Emperor that you could tell it's good because it's telling you to do something that the army does not want to do, and then you're doing it? This is even more so for Lions of the Emperor. Custodes, as an army, are allergic to splitting up. They do not like to split up. They are bad at it, and they don't like to do it. They're very tough, but if they can get ganged up on, if they can get jumped, if they get isolated, they're not that tough, and they can get killed, right? Especially piecemealed by faster armies. That's what happens when you split up in Custodes. Lions of the Emperor says, if you split up, you will receive the power of the sun in the palm of your hand. And you go, I guess I'm splitting up now. Right? So it's something the army desperately does not want to do and is willing to do because the detachment is so good. And it's still up to you, right? You don't have to split up when you don't want to. But when the game, gets bloody and units start dying and units start splitting up, suddenly every one of your units is just cracking the core of the earth when they attack, when they shoot. This detachment rule is just crazy. When you can proc it, when you can be 6 inches apart from any other friendly, which is hard a lot of the time, this is the poster child for a detachment that would be insane if it were on a different codex. Because I will tell you, the codex that does not want to use these rules inherently is a bunch of 40 mil models that move 6 inches and want to ball up. Not the army that wants to use it. Still, so I think that's probably decent game design. Because getting that 6-inch bubble around your models early is like really annoying and really hard. Later on, it's a lot easier. Then you have some of the best enhancements in the entire game.
Wow.
Yeah, all 4 are good. I would probably take 4 if I were legally allowed to take 4. You're not, but they are all incredible, right? You have Admona Mortis, which means that your dude absolutely turbo slams. +1.
Is this the best combat enhancement in the game?
I think Thief of Secrets is a little bit better, but maybe that's in context.
Okay, fair enough.
Like you put down a Gravis Captain in a big unit of Indomitor Kill Team, and that dude is just like AP 4. It's the high AP, I think. It's like AP 4, damage 4, just slamming in. I think this is a very close second. You put this on an Alaris Captain in a 2-man Alaris unit, and he is just, I've had him go through like 3 armigers in a row, right? Just 1v1's one, 1v1's another, 1v1's another, and just...
Yeah, it's +3 strength, +1 AP, +1 damage.
Then you have +2 attacks for every 5 enemy units within 6, for every 5 enemy models within 6, which situationally is okay. This is definitely the worst one of the bunch. You have Lone Operative and Stealth, just hand to anyone. Or on a 2-up, just stand back up with full wounds, which is crazy on an Alaris Shield Captain that can set all damage to 1, re-rack it, because there's a stratagem to reset a once-a-game ability, which is great. It's way better than the Orc Champions version of that, which is 2 CP and only on your Warlord. This is 1 CP and on anyone. So you can just re-rack a once-a-game ability, so you get 2 different bursts of a once-a-game ability. Really, really good on that. You can split your Alaris. Don't do that. Just don't do that. But fallback, shoot, and charge is great. Fight on death on a 4+ or a 2-up for the character is really, really good. One CP 3-up Fight on Death is probably the best version of Fight on Death, just for efficiency's sake. And this is basically that. The character you really want to fight will fight on death on a 2-up, unless you're really sad. And then somebody in his unit is also going to swing, and that's probably worth it for 1 CP. Peerless Warrior here is you get precision. That's whatever, but it is worded so that you can get precision on the Fight on Death, right? Because you can. It just is a unit that has not been selected to fight, which ordinarily precision on a Fight on Death doesn't work, right? Because you can't activate Epic Challenge. And then reactive move when your opponent shoots at you can just absolutely wreck them if you roll too high. Now, that being said, if this were on a different army than Custodes, this would be the best army in the game, I think.
Yeah.
Custodes are slow, don't like being more than 6 inches away from each other, and are on big bases. So this is, as I said, probably good game design, where it's the army and the rules are at tension, but when you can make them work together, the army sings. It does a ridiculous amount of damage.
I think you're starting to see, like, in the top 3 here, we have really good detachment rule, really good enhancements, and then several really good stratagems. And that's the point where this is just one of the best detachments you can have access to. Some detachments have some weak enhancements, but a really good detachment rule, and like a couple, maybe like 1 or 2 good stratagems. Sometimes it's like 5 good stratagems, an okay detachment rule, and some okay enhancements. But once you combine good in all the places, it gets crazy.
Yes.
However, sometimes you just have a ludicrously crazy rule, and that's enough. Speaking of which, number 2, it is the Devoted of Yened, which is the Ynnari detachment in Eldari.
Yeah.
We did not receive a nerf in March, and that is why it is going to be up here at number 2.
I have played quite a bit of Ynnari recently, and they're good. They're really good. This rule needs to change in some way. It has to. Because this rule is single-handedly... Strength from death. Lethal intent. Lethal intent specifically. It is single-handedly propping up both Ynnari and Eldari to being too good, right? If you modify it, if you modulate it, then you can get the army back to where it needs to be. Because its enhancements are fine. They're not great, they're fine.
They're actually subpar because each enhancement has a specific character you have to run to access it. There's no generic ones, which is unfortunate.
The only one that I like is the +2 attacks on the Archon, the Ynnari Archon. Ynnari Archon is pretty good.
Yeah, he's solid.
Hasn't found his way into my list recently, but he has in the past, and I still quite like him. But enhancements, not that great. Stratagems, fine, right? Like, fine. Reroll 1s to hit in combat, decent strat. Full rerolls if you're below starting, but it's only on infantry.
Sticky objective when you die is great.
Sticky objective when you die is by far the best one, in my opinion. You have a full Fight on Death in this army is a little weird, but whatever, it exists. Like the stratagems are okay. -1 to wound. Shoot it back at the end, or shoot anything at the end of the shooting phase. Sounds really good, but it is on Eldar.
T3 body.
So if it was on something other than Eldar, it'd be cranked. But it really is just lethal intent. At the end of the shooting phase, after your opponent is all done shooting, right? They don't get to pick their shooting phase back up and keep going. When they're all done shooting, if any of your units have died during that phase at all, you pick any Ynnari infantry, or Ynnari unit on the board of any kind. It can be a Wraith Lord, it can be the Incarn as long as it didn't teleport, it can be infantry, bikes, whatever. And you just make a normal move with them.
Full normal move, which can be adjusted.
Which can be adjusted with tokens, but it doesn't have to be broken. The ways that this gets out of hand really needs to be seen to be believed. And you can see that with all the Eldar players who don't play Ynnari. I have had so many conversations with Eldar players who are like, yeah, it seems okay, but I would just like my Aspect Host, or I just like my War Host, or Seer Council, or whatever. And I'm like, no, you don't get it, man. You don't get it. Ynnari is basically like Aspect Host that scores 30 more primary points, and I'm not exaggerating. The amount of times when somebody is like blocking the board and like, they are winning the fight, and they have the durable models, and I can't kill them, and I outscore them by 10 on primary because of this rule, is ridiculous. End of the shooting phase. Oh, okay, you're setting up a charge over here. What if that charge just ran away? What if it just ran away and you don't have the charge and your turn falls apart?
Or a fight first unit walks within 6 to heroic.
That's usually what happens. The run away from a charge thing is Well, that's one thing. That's like the 70 IQ on the IQ test ads or whatever. That's that's all right. But then you can really make things really bad for your opponent. Oh, you're setting up a charge? What if my Howling Banshees moved 10 inches to tag an objective that I didn't already have and set up a heroic in range, right? And suddenly they're like, oh my God, I can't charge you. If I charge you, I die. What the worst thing you can do is, I actually don't know which one's worse now that I'm saying it. Whether it's worse to be a 50-50 melee shooting army, or if it's worse to be a full shooting army, Indian army. I don't know
Probably
which
the full
one.
shooting army.
You'd be surprised, because the 50-50 shooting combat armies need their shooting in order for their combat to work, and they need their combat for their shooting to work. And if you just remove one of those, the whole army just looks around scared, like it has no idea what it's doing, because they don't have enough shooting to table you, but they have enough shooting to mess up their combat for sure. Because if they shoot you, you're like, all right, stick you the objective, move this unit away from the charge, your turn didn't do anything, I get a 15, now it's my turn. The way it really feels is like we take my turn, and then we take our turn, and then we take my turn again, and then we take our turn again. Because you have so much fight first that it's almost like it's your fight phase. And you get to move when they're done shooting, which is so stupid. You get to see where all their models are, you get to see what their plans are, you get to see their whole cards, you get to see what their social security number is. You get to see their, most deepest fear. And after that's all done, you move. And you're like, it would sure be upsetting to you if this unit was here, and then you just move it. And usually it's, what is the nastiest way to mess my opponent's turn up? Not is there a way to mess my opponent's turn up, but what is the worst way for them that I can mess it up? And then there's also two other rules stapled to Strength from Death as well. I'm only talking about lethal intent. But at the start of the fight phase, any unit that's below starting strength, you can
first.
any unit. Well, it's one unit.
Yeah.
I misspoke. But you pick a unit that's below starting strength and it gains fight first. That can be a Wraith Lord. Trust me, melee armies do not like wounded Wraith Lords walking around with fight first and rerolls. They just don't love that. They would like it far less if it were in other armies, I promise you that. Angron at 14 wounds in a melee matchup with fight first. Things like that, right? But that's a great rule. It's good on Wraith Lords. It's great on the Incarn. It's great on those kind of profiles.
And then the Blood Surge move.
Which is just once per turn. When you do the run away when you shoot at me move, you can instead make it a Blood Surge. But it's a way less restrictive Blood Surge than you might expect on your movement, because you can go in any direction. You're just allowed to end in engage range, but it has to be the thing that shot you, right? So it's a lot harder to get into combat because it has to be the thing that shot you, but you're allowed to still go way behind a wall if you want to. Great rule. Just makes your opponent think more. This army's ridiculous.
If any army could access this rule specifically, just chop everything else off and you just get this, a lot of armies would just take it.
Yes.
That's how crazy it is.
Straight up. If any army could get access to just this rule, it would be better than all of the other detachments we've talked about, because it is that good. Again, not exaggerating. This is Aspect Host that scores 30 more primary on average over the course of a game. I have played games where I cannot kill my opponent, and I'm getting tabled, and I outscore them by 10 points on primary. I don't even know what to say to that. It's just happened. Nick is playing Ynnari recently, and he had the same thing happen. He played into a bunch of Deathwing Knights, and he was like, I couldn't kill him, but also I outscored him by 10 on primary. I'm like, yeah, that's just what happens with Ynnari, man. You just have units that go 16 inches at the end of the turn and be like, all right, I'm over here now. My objective, and on my turn, I'm going to go contest your objective.
All right, now moving on to number one, the one everybody has been waiting for. Surprise. It's more DACA. It's brand new. It has the most DACA that anybody could DACA that ever wanted to DACA in their lives.
Too much DACA.
It's far too much DACA.
Please stop DACAing.
If you checked Meta Monday, if you were watching the super majors that happened over the weekend, there were two 200 plus size events, all of which had 3 orc players finish in the top 3. And then they won the third biggest event as well. No surprise. I mean, we called it immediately that this is going to be too strong. And guess what? They have one of the best detachment rules in the game, some of the best enhancements in the game, some of the best stratagems in the game. It's a collection of rules that any player would want to have access to.
I mean, world leaders wouldn't want it, I suppose. Yeah, no, they wouldn't. But like, oh my God, anyone who has the data sheets with the keywords infantry or walker would murder for Mordaka. Oh my God, they murder with it too.
They really would.
Yeah, once a game, everything gets assault, and all the time you get sustained hits too. I don't know what they were thinking with this one. We saw it and we were like, oh, okay, I guess the best army's orcs now. Dude, the army just shoots so ludicrously hard, and it's because you have sustained hits too on everything.
On everything. And orcs have volume. They might not be efficient normally, but guess what makes you efficient? Sustain 2.
They don't even have a lot of access to rerolls. They only have Ludas, right? That's one of the 3 units that they take. And that's only if your opponent stands on objectives. This is still absurd. I don't know what was happening with this. It's a detachment rule that absolutely makes the army. Now, to be clear, they have decent enhancements and good stratagems, right?
Put something in the WA is 1 CP for 5 to 6 buffs, depending on what the unit is.
Yes. Now, it is balanced somewhat by the fact that orcs always want to be in transports at the start of the turn, so you don't really get a chance to put this on that much.
Zodgrod, though.
Don't get me started on Zodgrod.
All 3 games. Somebody took a picture of turn 1 of all 3 orc games at the top tables of the UKTC Super Major. All 3 games, the orc player had just Zodgrod's unit strung out in front of the opponent's army. They could not move anywhere. Yeah,
no, that's fun. That's good. Wow, Zodgrod was such a cool unit because you gave some of the worst data sheets in the game some of the best buffs in the game. And you're like, ooh, it's a gang of Gretchen. And it was decent for a while. With the ability to just put it in the WA, it is ridiculous. Because you're not going to WA turn 1, but that unit really does want to WA turn 1. Well, now you can WA turn 1 and just send it. Just send it yard, or wait until turn 2 and just send it on the turn you're dropping everything.
The thing is, the opponent has to kill it. It's OC. Why are Gretchen OC2? What is going on? It's like, here's a squad of 20 Gretchen that are OC2. If you don't kill it, they will just take all your objectives away.
Yeah, I mean, I played a game in a John where he got 2 zeros in a row. Just 2 zeros, because Zodgrod's unit took his home objective, he shot it to pieces, still had enough models to take his home objective, and then he finally killed it. I don't know what they were thinking with this. It's got great stratagems.
What if a shooting army had easy access to ignores cover and +1 AP, Jack?
Not just ignores cover for a unit. So it's +1 AP for 1 unit, which is
it's good.
The closest eligible within 18. Fine stratagem, good stratagem. Too good in this detachment, but generally a fine one. But you pick an enemy unit and it just can't receive the benefits of cover if it's within 18 inches of a character. What? Okay, sure. Screw that unit in particular. Die now. There's a lot of really good stratagems in this detachment, and but it's mostly made by that detachment rule. It's just too big of a number. It's just too big of a number. Sustained hits 1 would already be really, really good.
Possibly too good.
Possibly too good. Sustained hits 2 is comical. It's trying to make a point that it's too good. I don't understand personally, but yeah, this thing needs to change. Stat. This army let's do a little compare and contrast. Right now I'm ranting about orcs, all right? We're done talking about why Mordaka is great. Now we're talking why orcs with Mordaka is great. Let's talk about an army that a lot of people thought was going to be really, really good when it came out, which is Star Shatter. Star Shatter does a hellacious amount of damage. So does Mordaka. Okay, then Star Shatter wasn't that good. Why is Mordaka really good? Star Shatter doesn't score points. That's its main issue. Shoot you as hard as it wants from outside the club, but trying to get to the points doesn't really do that. Orcs do that. They have a lot of units. They have trucks with a ton of dudes inside. They have Zodgrod. They have Storm Boys. They're just absolutely nightmarish to deal with because they're all over your objectives. They're scoring every secondary.
Advance and shoot, advance and charge, all the speed buffs.
Yeah, they're just ridiculous because they have a ton of units. So they can contest objectives, they can hold objectives, they can do secondaries very, very easily. And then on top of that, they have a ton of firepower. So they're like Star Shatter. Star Shatter could hold primary and could do secondaries and could take your opponent's primary away, i.e. broken. If Star Shatter could do that, it would be as broken as people thought it was. Mordaka can. So it's as broken as we thought it was, which is quite.
So that there is going to be our top 10 detachments in the game. Please let us know if you agree with us, disagree with us, which ones do you think we missed and didn't put on here that you think should make it. We'd love to hear from you. Now we are going to dive into these super chats here, and then we'll round it out. So
yeah, I do love the chat that's like, remind me, is Zodgrod a character? And can he immediately get within 18 inches? Yeah, no, good point. He can.
Gabriel Roth, thanks so much for your $10 super chat. So obviously Mordaka is busted. Having played into it, I would say sus 1. You get sus 2 if you already have one. 2 CP WA strat, ignores cover for 1 unit instead of whole army. Thoughts? I mean, that could be great changes to start with. I think there's a lot of things they can do. Really, sus 2 just shouldn't exist, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair if the unit's balanced around it, but it's clear like they just weren't. Right? The codex came out, and then later they're like, what if we just handed every model in this codex sustained hits too? That would be fine, right? And was not fine.
I mean, Ludas weren't seen in the other detachments, but all of a sudden, sus 2 on them, they're rerolling on an objective, it becomes a nutty unit for 100 points.
Yeah, we used to see it in Dread Mob because you could give it sustained.
Yeah.
Right? And that's sustained 1, not sustained... What are they? Sustained 2? Whatever. I don't know.
We got John Apocalypse here, €5 super or £5 super chat. Thank you so much. If Slangors were added to Emperor's Children and the Slaughter Brute was added to World Eaters, what rules would you give them both?
The Slaughter Brute should move 25 inches, charge, be strength 30, AP 7.
Are those Sigmar models?
Yes. So the Slaughter Brute is the Khorne alternate way to build the Mutalith.
Aha.
So it's weird. The Mutalith can only be built one way for 40k, which is the Mutalith. But we actually own a Slaughter Brute. And then Slangors are they're not spawn. They're like gores, right? The bestigors and pestigors and whatever. They're those, but if they're too horny. And so they would be cool in Emperor's Children. The problem is we already have stuff in that slot, right? We have Spawn for Emperor's Children, and we have a Mauler Fiend for World Eaters. So I do think they would be like they'd be overlapping in that space, which, I don't think I think that's why they left them out personally, because they do have the models.
We've got Joe Ramuni. Thanks so much for your $5 super chat. What's up, dudes? Mordaka, my suggested changes: assault all game, sustain 2 in WA. WA strat goes to 2 CP when used on a named character unit. I personally think that'll still be too good. The armies that advance and shoot while also doing ludicrous damage there's not too many of them. The ones that have assault and are limited are like something like Monka. You only get the assault in the first 3 turns, which dramatically limits the power. It lets your opponent have some sort of play around it.
And to be fair, I do think that if they did that, you would have 1 turn of cracking the earth open. But after that, without the sustained 2, a lot of those units aren't that great, right? Like Tank Bustas are good, but they also have a once per game ability, and they're pretty unreliable otherwise, unless they're essentially hitting on 2s. Statistically wise, but they are kind of unreliable. Like I do think the army would go for 1 big turn of blam, and then that's it, right? That's kind of it. You can put yourself back in the wall for 2 CP, I suppose, but like I don't think that would be great design. Like it wouldn't be that fun. You'd have 1 turn where your opponent drops the hammer, and then they don't get to have any fun anymore. Maybe you don't get to have any fun because you're dead, but somebody's not having fun, and I don't think that should be where I think
they want it to be like less all-in type of army and just be a good detachment all game, but not an insane detachment all game.
Yeah, if they just gave sustained 1 to the ranged weapons and they just take away the silly assault thing, it would basically be Warhorde but for shooting, which would be better, to be clear, than Warhorde, but context.
Then we have Redrum here with a €5 super chat. Thank you so much, Redrum. What makes a good detachment in your opinion? And now can a detachment be more like Mordaka? How can a detachment be more like Mordaka? 9th edition Vietnam flashback.
Yeah, orcs, if you played 9th edition, there's a period where orcs were shot even harder than they do now.
Indirectly,
directly, up, down, left, right, over the river and through the woods, through your models. It was so rough. I hated that.
Planes and buggies, so baby.
What makes a good detachment? I would say either does one thing brokenly, right,
Yunari.
or it just has a really, really good suite of rules for whatever situation comes up. So the dude does one thing really well is like the melee detachments I talked about, right? Warhorde or Berserker Warband. It just does the melee playstyle to a T. It gives you every tool you need and nothing really else. There you go. That's a good detachment. Gladius is an example of the all-rounder detachment where it just has a rule or a strat for every single aspect of your army, no matter what you're trying to do. And if you want your detachment to be more like Mordaka, it does one thing brokenly, right? It shoots really hard. It doesn't do anything else. It has reroll wounds against an objective, which I guess they gave that as well to the whatever. But that does not make it a melee detachment, right? It does one thing brokenly well, and that's what it does, and deal with it, right?
I think you can see like most of the detachments have some sort of like really strong trick, like sticky objectives when I die, or reactive move, or they have an always useful flexible stratagem like fallback, shoot, and charge. Something that you really can't afford to have tied up can do its thing that turn. Yes. Those you've seen in a lot of detachments. Something like that fits in most of the top detachments. It's always useful. It is that safety net to help you keep playing the game, even if things are going wrong. Yep. That's pretty important for these detachments, I would say. We have Ricky Chow. Thanks so much for your $5 super chat. Next Tuesday's tier list falls on April 1st. Top 10 40k romantic pairings. Also, do you think Mordaka is going to keep Yunari down? Can't.
Lethal intent
if you're dead. So in terms of top 10 40k romantic pairings, I mean, that's a tier list for Quentin for sure.
That I'm not. Listen. I don't read the lore like that. I don't know.
But in terms of Mordaka keeping Yunari down, I mean, it's going to keep a lot of stuff down.
Yeah, this personally is very swallows the spider to eat the fly sort of deal, right? Yes, Mordaka should probably beat Yunari when they play. It is a shooting army, which Yunari does prey on. It's not that hard to kill, at least in the micro, right? They're orcs. Yunari can kill orcs. But there's just so much of them, and they're all in transports, and they're all so deadly that it does get tough for Yunari to navigate that minefield. But it does have the tools to navigate that minefield, which is more than most. Yunari should probably do better into Mordaka than most armies will. Yes, you can't lethal intent if you're dead. Hopefully the Yunari player doesn't just allow the orc player to tee off on them first. But if the orc player does get in and get to start shooting and charging multiple Yunari units, yeah, they are going to be tabled. It's not particularly close. Yunari does not survive an all-in if they let every unit get accessed. Now, Wraithlord's kind of annoying for Mordaka to deal with. They have the tank bustas, but that's kind of it. So it's a kind of a one-for-one sort of deal. You have to get your tank busta on the Wraithlord. If the Wraithlord's not on the objective, I promise you that Ludas and Flash Gits are not going to do it, especially if it's in cover where you have to strip that cover. Like, then it still gets 3-ups. It's kind of a problem. But yeah, it's going to keep Yunari down, but it's going to keep a lot of other stuff down more. We saw this back in 9th edition when Drukhari was a real menace. And then Admech came out, and Admech was better than Drukhari. And people were like, maybe this is good because Admech will keep the Drukhari down and solve the Drukhari problem. No, it didn't. It just created a new problem.
Hey, I solved the Drukhari problem.
You shot a bunch of Drukhari and a lot of other people to death, too.
I just had to do it, Jack. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So there's a lot of swallow the spider to eat the fly mentality with when a broken army comes out. Like, ooh, maybe this will actually solve problems. Like, no, it just creates problems. It's just, Yunari is dead, long live Mordaka, right? And it's not actually dead. It's just the king,
And then we have TNT TV. Thanks so much for €5 super chat. Florida man storms a local Streamhouse RTT with a bunch of oiled up golden boys.
I'm so excited for that.
Oh, yeah.
Lines of the Emperor. I get to play, my favorite or one of my favorite armies with a whole new suite of rules. I'm so excited.
You got Big T in there?
Big Trajan, man. He hits hard. He be smacking.
Tell you what, he loves being able to double up his once per game ability.
Yes, he does.
Joe Ramuni, thanks so much for your $5 super chat. I want to give of Jack touching his forehead and yelling, "Sustain 2, what are we thinking?" Somebody can make that. If you make it, I'll put it in the Discord.
Yeah, I'm sure if you look at the top 8 of whatever those events were that were just orc. If you look at the top 8 of there, you're going to see a lot of people touching their forehead and screaming about sustain too, I'm sure.
So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Hope you enjoyed this one. Thank you to everybody who super chatted as well. If you are joining us, please give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and tell your friends about us. All of that massively helps us grow. In addition, leave a comment below letting us know what you thought of the top 10 list. What things do you think we were missing? Which detachments in your local meta do you see as prominent top 10 detachments? We'd love to hear from you. In addition, if you want more content from us, check out The Worm at theworm.vhx.tv. There's a 3-day free trial, and with that, you're going to get access to content for every single army in the game, access to our Discord community, the TTS League, all the amazing stuff that we're doing. In addition, the Streamhouse RTT is coming up this week. Wednesday morning, we're going to have a preview show. The little teaser was released last week, which you can check out already on the channel. And then we're going to have the first game released Wednesday afternoon and the second one from round 1 released on Thursday. So some really interesting stuff coming up very, very soon. Stay tuned for that. And if you want to access it, definitely go ahead and click that notify button on the YouTube channel. And some of the games will be exclusive to The Worm, so you want to sign up there as well. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. Hope you enjoyed this one. I'm going to send you off with a little preview of that Streamhouse RTT. So long for now.
It's back. It's bigger. It's bolder. And this time, the stakes are higher than ever. This is the Streamhouse RTT, where the best Warhammer 40k players collide in a battle of skill, strategy, and sheer wit. The battlefield is set. The best of the best are ready to clash.
I'm not here to play. I'm here to dominate.
Tau don't miss, neither do I.
You know what I can do, and I'm not here to lose. I've got some surprises up my sleeve you won't see me coming.
This isn't just another tournament. This is a war of minds. Who will stand victorious? Don't miss it as the battle begins. Don't miss any of the action.